Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Felice Cellini. This is our Why Wait for Recovery Thursday night recovery community meeting. Welcome.
Hi, good evening everyone. My name is Haiti and I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery. We get together twice a week on Thursday evenings and Sunday mornings to discuss recovery. I am a compulsive overeater. I'm a binger, I'm a purger, I'm a food addict who opted to have bariatric surgery, and it didn't actually make me happy. The only thing that really made me happy and introduced joy into my world was recovery.
Recovery. I'm a drug addict, alcoholic, anorexic in recovery. Welcome everybody. So we're on hope. We got to have hope. And tonight's called Believing is Seeing, and we're going to discuss tonight actually, I'd like to discuss the barriers that we put between ourselves and our recovery, and how we talk about if we're going to make up stories anyway, how we could go ahead and make up stories that are good stories as opposed to making up stories that keep us in fear, right? Since it's our choice anyway, because it has to do with our perspective, and anytime we're making up something about the future or what's going to happen in the next 2 seconds or 200 days, it's actually a story that we're telling ourselves. And so what we choose to see is what we're going to believe. So if I choose to see that I'm going to have a crap morning because I have to go to work and there's going to be so much traffic and I can't believe and da-da-da, that's how my morning's going to play out, as opposed to, wow, I get to drive in my great car and go to this job that gives me a wonderful paycheck, and today's going to be just another wonderful day. So I'm going to tell myself that story. I might as well tell myself that great story, because what I put out there is the way that my day is going to be, because my life is simply my perspective and how I act or react to whatever is happening around me or whatever I decide to believe.
So as you're speaking, this reminds me of when I was in active addiction and I was using, and I was the butt monkey and the white person. So whenever it became like the things about my recovery, the first thing was why, and then I'd follow it up with the butt. So those became all the obstacles in my recovery. Just also to do some house cleaning quickly.
Housekeeping. We're not doing any house cleaning, but we're going to do some housekeeping. So you go.
Okay, we live stream on Facebook. If you want to jump in, just hop into the conversation. We have a virtual room where you can join us as well. We also live stream on YouTube, because our goal is to reach as many people who are struggling with addiction as possible, because there is a way that is a much better option.
Yeah, and I want to put out there to you guys, you know, we talk about struggling with our addiction. And actually, we struggle with our addiction at times when we're in recovery. And so let's remember that being in recovery, in addiction, we know that we're using actively, right? In recovery, we're still struggling with our addiction, right? And with those isms that they call our alcoholism, or we call it obesity-ism? Our obesity, our binging, purging ism, right? Yeah, and so still, even when we're in recovery, you know, we revert back to when I was using and how I felt. But that stuff doesn't go away when I put down the drink or the drug or the sex or the binging and purging. And so I still have, my thoughts are still my thoughts, even as I'm stepping into recovery. And actually being in recovery is going to be the difference, right? Because recovery is about our perspective, and addiction is never about what we're picking up. It's always about how we're feeling. That's driving our behavior, and so we pick up. So we want to be real clear about that, right?
Right, and the one thing that we tend to forget is we didn't become addicts overnight. So for us, we expect to be cured and get recovery and get the gold star and then you're done. But it doesn't work that way. You know, I was in active addiction for 42 years, whether it was actually using or thinking, because I'm that obsessive compulsive. And even though I wasn't picking up at certain stages, I was kind of that cry grunt. My thinking and behaviors were that of a person in active addiction. I was saying things I didn't mean. I was morose. My outlook was really doom and gloom. I was a victim. I was not responsible. There were so many things that were happening that, as an addict, that's what I identified with, was misery and poor me. And that chaos is how I justified continuing the behaviors and the using, be it the food, the drugs, the smoking, whatever it was, anything to shift how I was feeling or to divert how I was feeling more than anything else.
Yeah, and so that pour me a drink thing that they say in AA, as long as we're keeping ourselves a victim, as long as we keep ourselves in that mode, a victim mode, we're going to tend to stay, at least spiritually, not so much in recovery. And also, and I just want to clarify one thing, because we talk about obsessive behavior and compulsive behavior. We're not here to talk about actually obsessive compulsive disorder. That's completely different. So sometimes we're going to use some terminology that you might think, well, hey, they're talking about this, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about having some obsessive thoughts, right? And kind of staying in that chaos, in that chaos, in that chaos. But not necessarily a medical diagnostic disorder. So
Right.
I want to just clarify that to everybody out there, as well as clarifying that with the A's, we're not AA or NA or OA, and we love all of those groups, and a shout out to all those groups, because a lot of us started to get cleaner, got some clean time in there, but we're not affiliated with any of the A groups.
So we're not doing therapy sessions. We're
Correct.
sharing our stories as they unfolded in our lives, our stories of strength, courage, and hope. So because we find that as addicts, the way that we recover best is when we share on a heart-to-heart level and learn from each other, because recovery really is about growth.
Yeah.
Self-discovery.
Absolutely, thank you, yeah. And so it is about growth and self-discovery. And so we're going to talk about kind of choosing our thoughts, which, by the way, you guys, if we choose to be miserable, we choose to be miserable. If we choose to be grateful, we choose to be grateful, right? And there are action steps that we take so that we can make those choices, or action steps that we feel like not taking, so that we're not viewing the world that way. And we're not talking about, we all have events in our life that happen that are kind of horrible and scary. We're human beings, right? And so some bad things happen. And we're not talking about not acting as human beings when bad things happen, or reacting to things when bad things happen, but we will talk about how long we stay there, and we will talk about how our perspective, again, remember, it's always our perspective that drives, which is our thinking, that drives that behavior that keeps us in active addiction.
So interesting thing, I'd love to share a little bit.
Please.
So this past weekend was my mother's unveiling. I lost my mother in October, my amazing, amazing mom. I mean, she wasn't perfect, but she was my mom, and she gave birth to me, and I have a lot of her traits, and she really was an amazing woman. But we had her tombstone unveiling on Sunday, so it's actually out of town. We traveled on Friday, so we get onto a bus. And I see how I grow in recovery, because I see how my reactions and my perspective shift as well. I shared this story with some people here, but I'll share it with you. So we're on this bus, we're going to the car rental place for me to go pick up a car, because I made a decision, I'm going to rent a car and I'm going to stay in a hotel, and this way I can minimize chaos in my world, because I'm starting to know what's good for me, and I start knowing what my triggers are, and I know things that I can minimize things and still be nice. Because the whole goal was to be nice and be present and be there for my family and my father, who's an elderly man. So we're heading towards a car rental place, and I'm sitting next to my husband at the back of the bus, and it's packed, and there's a lot of traffic, and there's a lot of chaos that we're building the airport. And as we turn the corner, I say to Stephen, go ask the bus driver if we're going to the right place. He stands up. I go, listen, because I'm
The bus driver.
Yeah, so Stephen's going to go to the front of the bus over all the baggage to ask the bus driver if we're going to the right place. Okay. He stands up, he goes, you go. And I'm about to go, F you, why don't you just do as you're told to? And that's where I'm about to go, because that's my go-to behaviors in the past. And I looked at him, I said, actually, do you know what? That's okay. And I sat down, and we both sat down, and probably like a second later, we get sideswiped by a car, and everything goes flying in the bus. And I go, crap, that could have been me flying across the bus with all the baggage. I'm going, it's funny how things sometimes happen that we just stop and we go, wow, I could have been in two different scenarios if I would have reacted differently. If I would have gone to my go-to behavior, which would have been the F you, I'm going, and started marching down the bus, that would have been me instead of the baggage.
So I want to talk about something else.
Yeah.
So were you going to the right place?
Yes, we were.
Yes, you were. And did you get on a bus that you were told was going to the right place?
Well, I'll tell
Yes
you.
or no?
Yes, I'll tell you the craziest thing.
Yeah, I'd like to finish this
Yeah.
part. Okay. And you know those people that go to their doctors and they question everything that their doctors are doing and tell their doctors, well, my next door neighbor said da-da-da-da.
And Google.
We're going to talk about control.
Right.
And so if you go somewhere, and we're going to talk about, again, believing is seeing, and we're going to talk about having some faith. And so you were told to get on a certain bus because it was taking you to a certain place. And when we talk about behaviors, your first behavior was to question if the person who put you on the bus to go to the right place, that are all in control of those things, actually knew what they were talking about.
Right.
Okay, just want to say that.
Right, and not only that, so
And they were going to the right place.
right, so I could have been the person lying on the bus, okay, with the paramedics.
Still going to the right, then going to the wrong place.
Not only that, we get off the bus, and there's another bus that actually picks us up. I'm just saying, I could never have planned this better. Okay, if I was in charge, I would have effed this up. Okay, another bus picks us up, takes us to the car rental place, and they upgrade us. They give us like a free upgrade for no reason. So if I would have planned this, I would have arrived there irritable and discontent at the car rental place and really been so irritable and going, you can't believe what happened when we were getting here, and brought into the chaos, because that's what I usually thrive on. And it was actually quite amazing.
Yeah, so my point is, when we're talking about the believing is seeing, yeah, I walked onto a bus thinking everything's taken care of, all right? I ain't driving. Everything's taken care of. I'm going to sit down in the back and trust the process. Or I'm going to get on the bus and think, oh my God, what happens if we're going to the wrong place? Because we're going to the wrong place, and we're going to be late, and the other buses are going to pick us up, and then I'm probably going to have to fight with Steven, the kids are going to be here. All of those things. As opposed to getting on the bus and saying, glad that we got this ride, we're going to arrive when we arrive.
Right.
Just saying.
Right. So we really have no control over certain things.
Right.
But even though we
But I'm still going to get to this point. But we do have control over our perspective.
And the reaction.
Yes,
100%.
our action, right,
Our
right,
action
not
and
reacting, but our actions.
Right, 100%.
Yeah.
So then the next thing is really, I look at that and I stepped into a place of gratitude. The place of gratitude is, wow, this could have been really disastrous. Like, this could have been really a crazy thing to do. And I was so grateful when we got to the car rental place. It was very chatty, and the woman was awesome and not related, and she just happened to do something really nice for us. Okay? So, yeah. But it's not a guarantee. Just because you do the next right thing doesn't mean to say that good things happen.
Of
Nor is
course.
that why you do it.
Right. And so us doing the next right thing is because we decide to do the next right thing. And we talk about that too. Just because I'm doing the next right thing doesn't mean that the universe is doing something differently because of what I'm doing. Right? So the universe turns the way that it does. My perspective is my perspective. My perspective, whether I choose to be happy or miserable, has nothing to do with how the world is going to turn that day. Nothing. The only thing it has to do with is the way that I'm looking at the world, the way that I'm looking at my own world, and the way that I am deciding whether, it's going to make me decide what actions to take, but more importantly, it's going to help me to decide whether I'm going to get through the day with gratitude or whether I'm going to get through the day disgruntled. Right? Those choices that we make.
And I think also that ability to step into the moment rather than projecting into the future
Which is what she did when she got on the bus.
Right,
Was
and-
projecting into the future.
And just looking back on it, I've been working on a really big real estate deal for the last 2 months. And honestly, I've been like sitting there, why isn't this one sending me something? Why aren't they doing what they're supposed to do? We're at the airport on Friday and they signed the contract and the deal is done. So it didn't matter how much I worried before that point, or how much I stressed out days before, or that the credit card's getting like way overdrawn or anything like that. All the stuff that was happening anyway, but things kind of fall into place the way they're going to fall into place, whether I start worrying about it or I caught the flight to New York or I did. Do you know what I'm saying? It's quite amazing. We are not in control of so much stuff that we think we can control.
Right, and what you were in control over was the fear or the lack of fear. So, which is what you just said, and that's the most important point. So whether you worried about I swiped my credit card and now I've already spent $100 more than I'm supposed to spend. I already did it. So if I'm going to worry about it, it's done. If I'm not going to worry about it, it's done. It didn't change the decision that I made, and I'm still, did the other extra $100, but it's done. To think about it before and say, is this something that I'm going to do or not, that's different. To worry about it after doesn't serve me. Because it's done. It don't make it undone. No matter how scared I am, it doesn't make it undone. Correct?
So you mean crapping on the kids and crapping on Steven isn't going to make it any better?
Right, and keeping my head in chaos. isn't going to make it any better. Even if I stay by myself and isolate and don't take it out on anybody else except for myself, it still doesn't change the way that it is. So at 5 o'clock today, it's 5 o'clock today. If I walk through my day in fear, at 5 o'clock it was 5 o'clock. If I walk through my day in gratitude today as best as I could, at 5 o'clock it was 5 o'clock. It didn't change the fact that it's 5 o'clock today.
So picking up and using would not have made it any better. So when I was in active addiction, my go-to thing would be shoving things in my mouth. You know, that was when I was stressed, I'd start putting things in because I'm the addict, and I think I can change how I'm feeling by adding something to the situation. By not doing that, didn't create more chaos in my world.
Right, actually created less. And when we put ourselves in that position where we call ourselves in recovery and we're not going to pick up, still the chaos that we keep in our head, right? And those behaviors, even though we're not picking up and putting something in our mouth, I'm not drinking, I'm not eating opiates, I'm not, overspending, I'm not whatever. Even in recovery, because it's easy to look at what we did when we were in active addiction. We used. We all did, you guys. No matter what we used, that made us all the same exact person. We're all addicts, right? In recovery, I say that that I don't define my life by my addiction. My addiction makes me the same as every other addict on the planet. Don't make me better than you, don't make me worse than you. It keeps me exactly the same as you are, and you are, and you are, and you are. We're addicts. In recovery, I have choices. And so, the more that I look at myself in recovery and work on myself in recovery, the more I get to define myself on the person that I am as the person that I am in recovery, as opposed to the person that I was as an addict in active addiction, because that kept us all. I don't have to define that. I was an addict in active addiction. I felt like shit about myself. I used anyway. I was guilty. I was scared. I was a liar. I was all of those things that we all are when we're in active addiction. So that made me exactly the same as you and exactly the same as you. But I can spiritually change as I'm in recovery and continue to work on that and continue to do my best, and continue to do my best with my perspective, because when my perspective is better, I get to be of service to the universe around me. And for me, that's what it's about, is being of service.
So do you want to check in and see how
we're going to check in with
everyone's
you people. Do we say this? No? Not yet. Okay, she pointed at something, but she said not yet. So we're going to skip over Ange. Let's go around this way. Yeah, Miss Dawn. Hi.
Really sure.
Say hi.
Hi.
Hey, Dawn, good to see you.
I don't really have much to say today.
So jump in when you do. So this really is a conversation. So
Yeah.
if anything touches you or you want to add to it, jump into the conversation.
Yeah, you know that I don't feel like picking on you today, so you're good. Yeah, I'm
When
not
you're talking about hope, I
Yes.
can certainly say that when I was in active addiction, I had no
None.
hope for the future.
Right? That made you the same as every other addict.
Same as every other addict. I lied, I snuck around, I couldn't look anybody in the eye. I thought nothing would ever change and that I would be miserable for the rest of my life, and therefore I didn't really want to have a rest of a life.
Yeah.
When I got into recovery, that all changed. And now I have like lots and lots of hope.
And your beliefs are different,
My
correct?
whole perspective on everything is different.
Yeah.
And do you know what I find also is I never had many interests. Like my behaviors were the same. My day was planned out. My day was planned. Like the things I had to do, I did. Like the things of dropping the kids, doing the shopping, doing all those menial kind of things of what I had to do to survive the day was what I did. And all of a sudden it was all planned around how I was going to use without anyone else finding out.
Yeah.
And that's how I planned, and I knew it was either going to be good or bad enough that I could justify using at the end of it. And all of a sudden, stepping into recovery, there seemed to be a lot more options. Reading books, things I planned to do with myself, things I wanted to. I never went down that road. My road was very dark, and there wasn't a lot of exciting, and not that it's that exciting, because too much excitement's not healthy for me either. But at least there are other choices,
And spiritually, there are so many more choices. So like you said, when you were in active addiction, you felt lonely, scared, and ashamed.
Yeah.
Pretty much so sums it all up, right? Did we have any other feelings besides lonely, scared, shame, regretful, resentful, which are all fear-based, we know. So we were in fear, we had 1,000 different kinds of fear. We were in fear. We all had that. And now that you're in recovery, when we talk about hope, we have a lot of feelings, right? We feel more calm, we feel happy, we feel loved, we feel cared for, we feel cared about, we feel excited.
Grateful.
Yeah, grateful and hopeful. And yeah, so thank you for sharing that. So for me, beside the mundaneness of the stuff that we did was spiritually that mundaneness of just walking around in fear and feeling nothing else. You know, being incapable of feeling anything but fear.
And projecting into a future that we couldn't control.
Which, by the way, we can never control the future. So yes, yes, right? We control our perspective and our own actions. That's it, boys and girls. That's it. Everything else happens. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Thank you for having me.
What's going on with you today? You want to share?
I'm always happy to share. I hear the word hope, and this word, yesterday I shared at a meeting, and I realized at this stage in my recovery, for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm being validated.
Validated by whom, hon?
By anybody that I respect. I feel like I matter. Maybe validating is wrong.
That's okay. No, there is no wrong word.
So, in the world that I came from, in order to be heard, you had to be louder and angrier and more drastic and more flying by the seat of the pants, and it was contentious. And today I don't have to do that to be heard. I don't have to shout, I'm here and I matter. Please tell me I matter. Today I have this sense that I have a purpose, and I'm not waiting for somebody else to tell me I'm gonna be okay. There are some days I can tell it to myself.
Okay, and so that's the most important part.
Mm-hmm.
So remember, so that was very important that you got to that part of what you were just saying. So thank you for saying that. So today you matter to you.
Correct.
Because remember, you could show up and do your best to do your best, and I could think you're an asshole.
Correct.
That's about me, right? I can't validate how you feel because my opinion of you is my opinion of the world, right? It's the way that I see the world, right? And so the only thing that we are responsible for is showing up and doing our best to do our best. And if she don't like you, or I don't like you, and she's in love with you, and the guy down the block thinks you're blah, 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 doesn't matter because you're not in control of that. And so when we get a better sense of our own self, we stop deciding that we are who she decides that we are, right? And we decide that we are. So yes, so you get to look at yourself today and say, hey, I'm doing my best, and that's good.
Yeah.
And that's all I need to do. And if Dawn doesn't like me, okay,
I
right?
don't know if I'm there yet.
Okay, but that's where
But
you
I'm
will
heading
get.
that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's where you get to.
Mm-hmm.
Because we felt so horrible about ourselves and so guilty and so ashamed, right, of who we are when we were in active addiction, and that's what keeps us in active addiction. And probably, well, we know chemically our brains are different than other people's brains are, right? But spiritually, we know that when we're in active addiction, that's where we are. And as we work on our recovery, we get a sense of self. Not Dawn's opinion of me, but my own opinion of me, right? So thanks for saying that, because at the end, that's kind of like what you're saying, right? Because you don't need my validation. I'm nobody. I'm just some girl living in my own universe, and you're some girl doing your best to do your best.
But I did always think I needed other people.
Yes, you did, because you had no opinion of yourself.
Well, I did have an opinion of myself. It just wasn't good.
Fair enough. So you had no good opinion of
Correct.
yourself. Okay, and so if I said you were fabulous, and so what that does, it allows you to present as who you're not. So I'm going to go through my day doing this for somebody else and doing this and smiling and acting like this so that she'll like me. But I can't make her like me, right? She is who she is, right? I can just show up and do my best, and that's okay. And so in recovery, that's the place that we're going to get to.
Okay.
Not 1,000% of the time, but a whole lot more of the time.
You know, if I can have a moment like that every day, I'm on the right track.
Yes, you are.
So,
Yes, you are. And you talking about it is what puts you on the right track,
yeah.
right? You recognizing it first, because we don't recognize we have a challenge, we can't fix the problem, right? And so I'm really glad that you brought that up, because that's something that we all struggle with and something that we all work on to get better at. so that we can be happy. Not so that if Dawn's in a good mood, I can be happy, but I can be happy, and if Dawn isn't in a good mood, you know, if you come in today and you say hi to Dawn, and Dawn says to you, what are you talking to me for? Like, who are you? Like, you're new here. Who are you? Right? We understand that that doesn't have anything to do with you. That has to do with Dawn and where she is. And so we have a choice, right? We could say, who does she think she is? We take it personally. Who does she think she is? And she doesn't even know me, and I just got here, and she's a real bitch, and you know, and I don't even know who she thinks she is, and we can go through that, right? Or we can, now we're gonna talk about perspective. Or you could walk in and say, hey, you know, I just met that girl Dawn, and I bet she's not feeling well today. Maybe I'll get her number and reach out to her later and see if there's anything that she needs help with. And not take it personally, because her experience is about her. It's not about you. One of the biggest lessons that we're gonna learn in recovery is not to take it personally. It's one of the 4 agreements. I don't know if you read it. If not, read it. It's so awesome, right? So what you brought up is something that everybody on the planet struggles with, and especially as we're coming out of active addiction and stepping into recovery. We have no opinion of ourselves, right? Except for that horrible opinion of ourselves. And so as we get well, we see things differently, right? So awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
I love that you share that. I must tell you, because I can so relate to what you're sharing. I'm the type of person that was always uncomfortable in my own skin, like forever. So whatever I wanted, and when I got it, I was uncomfortable. So if I wanted attention and I got it, I didn't know what to do with it. So what I'm starting to learn with being in recovery is recovery really is an action word. So for me, being of service and showing gratitude is really being in motion and having action. And part of that is being able to be empathetic and compassionate and being able to identify with other people, which instead of me being me and putting myself out there, I'm the person who'll be the wallflower at a party if there's a big crowd of people, because I'm that uncomfortable in a crowd that I'll hang to the wall. But to be able to, I'm working on being comfortable no matter where I am. And I just find that when I'm able to connect with people on an immediate level, like now, one-to-one, it's a totally different kind of relationship I'm able to have with that person as well. So instead of thinking of me, I'm thinking of their interaction and what we're saying and what we're sharing, rather than how am I looking or how am I feeling or what I'm actually doing in that space. So it just brings up a whole lot of stuff. I learned so much here.
Yeah, that was cool that you said that too, because we talk about, when they talk about self-centeredness, self-centeredness doesn't mean that I'm selfish. I would fall down drunk and buy the kids a pool table. Like, I wasn't selfish. Self-centered means that everything that's happening on the planet is affecting me. Except everything that's happening on the planet isn't affecting me. And if Dawn's in a bad mood, that doesn't need to affect me because it's got nothing to do with me. When I decide to take that on personally and be indignant, I love that you use that word, have that indignation, and who does she think she is? This is my meeting. How dare you come into my meeting and not smile at me when you come in here? And then I call Angela, you wouldn't believe it, but I was at the meeting. And you know what Dawn did? And I say, and you know, Laura, she wasn't even here. I'm gonna go call her and tell her what happened. As opposed to saying to myself, hey, you know, I hope Dawn's okay today. Same circumstance, different perspective. Difference between recovery and not spiritually being in recovery, right? What's happening in Dawn's world isn't about me, it's about Dawn. Can I be of service to Dawn today? Instead of being pissed off about something that has nothing to do with me? Yeah, I can make that choice. And so those are some of the things that we're gonna learn as we learn here, right? Workshop, guys, that's heavy duty workshop stuff that we do, right? That's when we get down to the nitty gritty and decide why we feel the way that we feel and why are we acting the way that we're acting.
So being without reservation. And what I mean by that is that, I mean,
I love that you said that. There was a
Isn't that
quote
so cool?
yesterday about that somewhere that I have to remember now.
What this means to me, and I've been thinking about this like for the last week, is doing things because they make me happy, not because I'm predetermining what the outcome is, or because I've got some kind of ulterior motive or something else doing in the background of why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because it makes me happy right now and right this minute. And that's really what I'm working on.
So we're talking about the difference between being of service and doing something with the expectation of something in return, which is not, Yes, it is self-centeredness, and it's self-seeking and self-serving. It's not being of service. So if I'm kind to you because I'm doing my best to do my best, and kindness is one of my things, I'm being of service. If I'm kind to you and I'm upset because you didn't smile and you brought you a water, but you didn't bring me a water, and you didn't sit next to me, and you didn't even write me a little love note while I was doing it, I'm being nice to you because I want something back. That's self-serving. That's not being of service. And when I'm being of service, I'm happy. When I'm doing my best to do my best, just because I'm doing my best to do my best, I feel contentment. When I'm self-serving, I'm always going to be disappointed because I can't control what you're going to do.
So it means I'm not getting the pool table.
Yeah. Not tonight, babe. Not tonight, no. And I'm not drunk, so here you go. No matter how I sound, you guys, I'm not drunk. I'm just happy. Right? Not drunk and happy, just happy. I love that. I'm drunk and happy. I'm fat and happy. I'm drunk and happy. I'm shooting up and I'm happy. Bullshit. Miss Liz, I am happy to see you.
I'm happy to be here.
How are you, Mama? What's going on?
I'm doing pretty well.
So I'm just going to say when you say that your outsides ain't matching your insides.
Oh, I have a headache, sorry.
Okay, fair enough.
The heat is just getting to me, so.
Okay.
But I will say that even though I'm not in active addiction and I haven't been for a while,
How long is a while, honey?
it's been 4 months.
Okay, good.
Awesome.
Good.
Yeah.
And so not using doesn't make us in recovery, right?
Right.
Spiritually, yeah. That part sucks, right?
So the crazy thing is that even though I'm feeling better, I still want to be in addiction. That's the craziest thing.
That ain't crazy. Everybody raise their hand who still wishes at least sometimes we could be in active addiction because we're addicts. That crazy addictive brain of ours. Okay, so thanks for sharing. Everybody on the planet, the couple of thousand people that are going to watch this tonight are raising their hand. Trust you me.
So I see myself in situations where I guess I'm talking about my feelings with friends and family, and there's this dialogue happening that used to not happen because I would just keep it all to myself. And in the past, the way I would deal with those feelings is that I would just eat to just not talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm not doing that, and it seems like I'm more argumentative with everybody.
Okay, so you know that I'd like to talk in specifics when possible. So is there anything that you could share a little tiny tidbit of specifically? You got your 15 seconds, so you might as well use them, right? So do you have 15 seconds of something, complaining or something, or that's not going your way that you want to share so that we can help you step into the solution a little bit? Because you being argumentative, you're not picking up food, but you're certainly spiritually not sound.
Right.
Right? So what are we arguing about? Can you give me a snippet? Or would you rather not?
No, I'd rather not.
Can you make something up that'll give us an idea of how you're feeling? How about if I come back to you? If you could think of something so that, because remember, if I don't know your challenge, if you're not talking about what the challenge is, it's very hard for us to talk about what the solution is, right? But I can tell you that that if there's something that's going on and I'm arguing with you, why do I argue? I'm arguing because I want to change your opinion. But I can't change your opinion. Remember, my new favorite thing is forgive them for they know not what they do. Right? So if I'm in, can somebody mute themselves, please? Because there's a lot of background noise. Pardon? Oh, it's okay. So Liz, forgive them for they know not what they do. If somebody's being argumentative or oogie with you, okay, remember, that's about them. That's not about you. I can argue with you until I'm blue in the face. That's not going to change how you feel unless you want to change how you feel. So if Haiti and I are arguing about something, and I'm getting loud, and I'm getting more, and I'm argumentative, and you know what, Haiti, and I can't believe it, you're not looking at it like this, and if you would just, and can you hear me? Will you listen to what I'm saying? First of all, she ain't listening. She's not ready to hear, and she's not ready to receive. I can't change that. Acceptance is the answer to all of my challenges today from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. If I'm not in acceptance, if I'm not accepting a person or a place or a thing around me, and I'm trying to change that, I ain't getting nowhere. If I can look at Haiti and say, you know what, she's not ready to receive it right now. And so I'm going to, whatever she says, I'm going to say to her, you know what, Haiti, thanks for sharing. I understand your point of view. And that's it. I don't need to change her. I need to feel the way that I feel. Me being in recovery isn't changing Haiti's opinion. And it's not changing my husband. I don't have a husband. My husband's opinion. And it's not changing your opinion or Angeli's opinion. It's changing my perspective about her opinion.
So can I ask you a question about that?
Please.
So my mind tends to take it a step further when I'm in that situation and there's this argument going on with this other person. Then, like, suddenly I start getting really scared that I'm going to lose this person because this is happening, and then I get clingy.
Okay, so here's the thing: if you're going to lose someone, you're going to lose them. My actions and opinions don't keep you here. Your perspective keeps you here. If I can't be authentically who I am around you, why am I with you? If you don't see me for who I am and care about me for who I am, why am I with you? I'm gonna tell you real quick. Angeli, when I first met her, and I talk about my relationship with Angeli a lot because you guys know her, and because a lot of you have seen her grow up some in recovery. When I first met Angeli, she was so worried about saying anything because it was going to change my opinion of her, or I was going to get mad at her, or I was going to get whatever at her. Who gives a shit? If I can't be kind and compassionate as a friend, then maybe she don't want to be my friend, right? So remember, no matter how you act, I am who I am. I can't change you. You can't change me. If you think that you presenting today, you come in here, Liz, and you say, you know what, Felice, yesterday I did this, and today I'm feeling this. Is it gonna, we did this last week, is it gonna change my opinion of you? No. Why would it? It doesn't need to. That's part of my recovery. You come in here and you say, we're having a train. So wait 1 second, because we're having the train. If you say to me today, you know what, Felice, I think you're a loudmouth bitch, and I can't stand the way that you run these meetings, and I know you think you're all that because you got a couple of letters after your name, and you have 10 seconds of recovery, and you think you can come in here and tell me what's going on with me, you know how I'm going to react to that? Okay. I'm going to say, first of all, thank you so much for sharing, and I'm sorry that you're in a bad place. And I'm probably going to say to Angeli, do me a favor, because I forget, make sure to shoot me a text later so I could shoot Liz a text later to see if she's okay. You being mad at me doesn't change the fact that I care about you. Doesn't change that. We're most afraid, what is fear? I'm afraid of losing what I have or not getting what I want. What's anger? It's fear. I'm afraid of losing what I have or not getting what I want. So you're in a relationship with me and you're not going to tell me that you think that I'm a loudmouth bitch because you're afraid I'm not going to talk to you anymore? Yes, ma'am.
Can I share?
Please do.
So, as Felice is talking to you, I'm just thinking like I went through this same thing and I still go through this from time to time. And basically, I think the only thing that helps is like to keep working on it. When it happens, you have to talk about it like you're doing right now, and also like work on your recovery, because I think that that going through the steps of, first you have to recognize that you have a problem, which obviously you do, and then after that, I mean, you just kind of have to practice the right way of doing things, because we're so used to reacting in that way, you know, and our reaction may not change at first, but the way we process it, we can learn to change that.
And if you, I'm gonna let you talk, I swear. And if you want me to fall in love with the fake you, I don't know what that means. And so if I can't be, and you know, it's so easy for me to talk to because I pay a shrink $150 for 45 minutes so that I can work on this in my male-female relationships. Because just because I can speak it doesn't mean that I can do it well. So I want to let you know that because I speak it real well. And because of whatever's happened in my past, I don't do it real well very often. And my shrink always reminds me, yeah, that's how you grew up, and you're not a 5-year-old child or a 25-year-old child anymore. You're a woman, and you could choose not to act that way. You can't make me like you, Liz. If I like you or not comes from me. For me personally, the more authentic you are with me, the closer I feel to you, the more I tend to like you. That's the way that I pick my female-female relationships. We are not authentic with others because we're afraid that they're not going to like us for who that we are. And at some point, we've got to get to the point where we say, if you don't like me for who I am, fuck you. Because I am who I am. And if I'm making believe, what happens one day when I don't want to make believe anymore? Because if you're in love with the make believe you, one day I am going to wake up and not be the make believe me, and the relationship's going to end anyway. I am who I am. Love me or don't love me. You know, I have my therapist, a lot of people in my world even say to me, you know, you might want to think about being less abrasive. For me, I say what I say because I feel how I feel and I'm passionate about how I am. And really, I'm sorry, but if you're not comfortable with who I am, I understand. I'm gonna let you know that I understand where you are, but I'm not gonna change because of that. I'm gonna still do my best to do my best, whatever that looks like on the outside. And I will continue to listen and to do my best. But I'm not gonna change who I am, Liz, so that you're gonna like me. Because one day I'm still gonna wake up with me, no matter how much I'm pretending. Yes. Thank you for waiting so patiently. I know how hard that is for you.
It's really hard for me. But I also just wanted to say something. You know, when I was first in recovery, I expected everyone to be in recovery. So I really thought everyone was changing because I was changing, and that was part of what my challenge that I had to deal with. And also people had been so used to me showing up in a certain way for so long that when I started shifting, kind of created like a ripple effect in my world, that people had to adjust to who I was, but I had to adjust to who I was. You know, I always looked to people to fix me, to make me whole. I always thought 2 holes in my relationship would make me, 2 halves would make me whole. And so I realized that 2 holes really make us whole, you know. So whatever others are doing, I can only work on me, and it's difficult. It's not easy. You know, the beginning part of recovery is really difficult. I'm still working on it. I still have the challenges. But the thing is being able to firstly notice it. For me, it's a learning experience in myself. Like when things start triggering me and I start getting those reactions, I know that's something I need to focus on and work on in me because it means something to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be reacting that way. And just because I'm in recovery, I can't control what else is happening. You know, and they always say for the first year, don't make any changes, but everything, you know, you got to change everything. But it really is a process. And just be gentle on yourself. You know, treat yourself gently, treat yourself as your best friend. And it's tough. It's not easy for us, especially for me, who always put other people first and myself so low down on the totem pole, you know?
Yeah. And once we do that, we also have to, so we're going to learn. Also, we talk about the difference between acceptance and boundaries. And I give a minute on this every single meeting. Because remember, the difference between acceptance and boundaries is acceptance. I can look at you, Liz, and say, I accept you for how you are, right? Now, if you, and if you're mad at me, I'm comfortable with that because I understand that that comes from you. Now, if you slash my tires, that's a boundary of mine. I'm gonna do this real simply. That's a boundary of mine. You're not allowed to hurt me physically or hurt my property physically. As a matter of fact, I have this thing where I'm really not even allowed to scream at me because something happens to me when people scream, makes me like PTSD stuff. And so that's a boundary of mine too. And I'll tell you, hey Liz, you know what? You can be mad at me, you can be angry, you can hate me today, and I'm comfortable with that as long as you say, you know what, Felice, I think that you're a loudmouth bitch and I hate you today. And I could say, okay, I'm sorry that you're having a bad day, and maybe we'll talk about that later. If you scream at me, I'm going to tell you I can't talk to you anymore today. And if you scream at me again tomorrow, I'm probably not going to be able to talk to you anymore. And so I've chosen that boundary for myself. And that boundary, that line, I can't let you cross because of the way that it makes me feel, the way that I feel. But with the other stuff I can. And so knowing the difference between I accept you for who you are, but I still have boundaries that keep me healthy because there's certain behavior that is not acceptable to me. When we can't be our authentic selves, it's very hard to understand the difference between boundaries and acceptance. And so until I find myself, I'm not going to be able to do that. Remember, Liz, you are responsible for doing your best to do your best, and that's all. That's it. Right? You are not responsible for how I act or react. You are not responsible for how your boyfriend or your mother or your next door neighbor's dog walker acts or reacts. I believe, this is my belief actually, that I am responsible for showing up and doing my best. And for today, that's enough. Right? I come from a place of love and kindness as best as I can for myself and for you as best as I can. And that's what I'm responsible for. And that's it. It makes life a whole lot easier. Scarier, again, because you're afraid of losing your relationships. But if I can't be who I am and I lose the relationship, is that who I wanted to be with? Do I want to be make-believe me? It's too much work. It's too hard. And I'm usually make-believe me when I have no opinion of who the fuck I am. Who am I? What makes me feel okay? How am I kind to myself today? How am I of service to others today? Right? How can I show up today and do my best? Right? Right? Whether you love me or not, you can be you and I are in a relationship, okay? And you're wonderful and you're kind and you're caring and I'm in love with you, right? Or you and I are in a relationship and you're wonderful and you're kind and you're caring and I leave you. That's about me, right? You and I are in a relationship and I come home every day and you beat me up and I stay. That's about me. Or I come home every day and you beat me up and I leave. That's about me. Whether you're amazing or horrible, the way that I decide to stay or to leave is about me. You can't control that no matter how hard you try. And the more authentic you are with you, the happier you're going to be in your life because it's a whole lot less work, a whole lot more fear. Shout out to Susan, best mom ever. Transition sucks, but it's awesome when you get to the other side. Even when we're changing for the better, there's a whole lot of fear because it's not what we're used to. What's going to happen? You know what, baby? You don't know what's going to happen anyway. You don't know what's going to happen if you show up and do your best to do your best, and you don't know what's going to happen if you show up and make believe. You don't know what's going to happen in the outside world. The only thing that I can promise you is that in time, you showing up and doing your best to do your best and showing the universe the authentic you, which is showing you the authentic you, is going to allow you to be happy. And the truth will set you free. Amazing words.
I'm pleased that you brought this up because, we spend so much time burying ourselves that we need to unlearn things and we need to learn things, and we actually have a workshop coming up.
Yes, we do.
So, we don't become this way overnight, and it takes a lot of learning and it takes work and it takes willingness and open-mindedness to actually start growing in recovery. So we're doing a one-day workshop. So it's not for everybody.
It's so cheap, it's actually for everybody.
Well, that's a separate question.
Right.
But you need to be able, you
Still
must
so
be
cheap.
willing to do some work, because if you want to come in and us to fix it, it's not going to happen. So, but we do guarantee you a lot of learning, a lot of insights into yourself.
If
and
you're
questions.
open to learning, we
Right.
can't guarantee you anything.
No,
Right?
actually, yeah, that's about you, actually.
Exactly. Exactly. We can guarantee to show up and do our best to do our best. That's what we can guarantee.
Right.
Right.
And also-
you could come to math class and not listen. You ain't gonna learn how to do algebra.
So I'll never know how to do calculus.
No, I don't know. I don't know.
But I just want to also share that we do have a closed group on Facebook called What's Eating You, and that's where we go share the stuff that's going through our head, because sometimes the stuff we tell ourselves is stuff we've always told ourselves, and we need to just get that stuff out, so we can change our perspective on it and share with others and know that we're not alone. So,
And be of service.
and be of service. And also, I just want to tell you that there are 3 questions to join our group. If you don't answer the 3 questions, we're not accepting you into the group. So, because that is what we're willing to do for our recovery.
Exactly. You know, I want to thank you. I want to thank you. And I want to give a shout out to everybody who is of service. Haiti, thank you for your service. Dawn, Ange, thank you for your service. Everybody out there that's of service. Everybody that shares, thank you for your service. Thank you for being a part of our recovery. Jess, we're talking about authenticity. And can you hear me, Jessica? Yes. We're talking about authenticity. And last week you had shared that you were honest with a friend and you were afraid of that, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah, and you were honest and had that play out?
positive.
Yeah. So all of the fear that you had, what did it change?
Absolutely nothing.
Actually changed a lot, because it changed the way that you went through your day that day. Right? So it changed, it took you from having a great day, and again, I talked to you guys about if you make stuff up, let's make great stuff up. So that day you were a little scared, right? You went to see a friend and you were going to tell your friend the truth, and you were a little scared and anxious, right? Because you were afraid of her reaction. She was going to react badly. That was the story you told yourself. And my thing is, if we're going to tell ourselves story, let's tell ourselves great stories. I'm going to go see my friend. I'm going to tell her the truth, and it's going to be so great, and she's going to be so happy. And then you get to go through your day, having a great, awesome, exciting day. And if it don't play out, it don't play out. Right? Still, there was the behavior, what you were going to say, what you needed to say, what you did. What happened after, you weren't in control of. So whatever was going to happen was going to happen. The only thing that was different was your perspective for that day or that week or however long you had been holding on to it, right? Was that fear. Yeah. Do you have anything to say? She's like, no,
I would love
take it
to
word
say
in edgewise.
something. I find it so interesting, and how much courage it takes to speak honestly, and how much easier it is to lie when it becomes for me.
Okay.
I can't talk for anyone else. So when it comes to telling the truth to someone, I would rather think of a way of telling it gently or nicely, and it isn't always authentic for me, so I end up not always telling the truth. And it's just so much easier for me to tell the story, and rather than just come out front and say it honestly, instead of having that conversation for like a day or 2 in my head, and it never turns out the way that I thought it would.
Yeah,
So,
the only
but the
person that
courage is
hurts is
amazing.
you.
Right.
Right. And you only need a second's worth of courage to say it.
Right.
And you're
then
going to
it's
say
done.
it anyway.
Right.
Right. So what, again, make up the good stuff. Wow, if nothing else, I'm going to say this and I'm going to feel better.
Well, I'm going to just feel however I feel, but at least I know that I said what was in my heart.
That John Mayer song, say what you need to say. He says it 56,000 times. Say what you need to say. Just say what you need to say. Question, viewer question. Angela's holding up the viewer question thing. And you didn't share, Nancy, you didn't share, so if we don't get to the 2 of you today, we'll definitely get to you
I'm
Sunday
using
morning.
my turn
Thank
for
you
the
for your
viewer.
patience. Go.
Okay, Karen says, hi, oops.
Hi,
Okay.
oops.
Oh, oops.
Hi, I
oops.
just finished treatment. I'm overweight. My meal plan is causing me weight gain. Is this normal? I'm panicking and want to restrict.
Okay, first of all, are you overweight or obese? So that's like saying I drink too much or I'm an alcoholic. So first we're gonna say I'm an addict in recovery, right? And so you guys, you know I have that thing, right? Addiction and recovery is real black and white. So we don't have to put it that nicely. I'm overweight. I would imagine you're obese or you wouldn't have just gotten out of treatment if in fact that's what you were in for. Okay, and that's the end result of the behavior. So that's like saying I'm drunk instead of saying I'm an alcoholic. So if you're an addict and you're in treatment for addiction, God bless you. Thank you for sharing that part with us. Second part is, if you're sticking to a meal plan, I don't know what your meal plan is, and we don't talk about foods and meal plans and stuff like that here, because we're not that's not what we're about. If you do need help, I'm gonna tell you, Angela, I'm gonna call you out here. I'm gonna tell you, go ahead and IM Why Wait for Recovery, Angeli. I just volunteered you. Angeli will get back with you and talk a little bit about meal planning and as dopamine receptor and what is okay and what's not okay as far as emotional overeating, binging, purging, our food addiction stuff. Give you a little bit better explanation about that, and you can be honest about what you're eating, and she will help you because she's like a maven on that right now. And I'm gonna call her our expert on that right now, because she deals with it day in and day out, and we deal with it with patients as well. And she'd be happy to help you. Otherwise, I'm gonna welcome you to the group. Thank you for sharing that. Please go into our waiting room, join What's Eating You, go into the waiting room on Sunday or on Thursday and join a group, join a meeting, so that we can get to know you and that we can help you out with your recovery. Because remember, when we're in recovery, we learn why not to pick up, right? So we gotta change here before we can change here.
Right. So at the end, no, it's true, because I'm also, I had bariatric surgery because I was obese. And just because I look thin on the outside doesn't make me thin on the inside. So it's something I'm very cognitive of. I make the choices of what I put into my body, no matter what people tell me that the latest fad or diet or trend is at the moment. I know what puts me in that obsessive mode that triggers me and gets me going, and my recovery is very black and white, and I'm very strict about what I do and don't put into myself, because I know I've done enough research to know what it looks like once I trigger myself and I'm obsessing and it's all about the food, and it really for me is not the place where I want to be. So reach out to Angeli. Honestly, she's great at input. Also, just for the people that have been talking online about having had surgery and all of a sudden are miserable because they don't know how to deal with it. Honestly, it's not about the food. And that is why I reach out to so many of you to join in the meetings and come talk about it, because everything changes if you want something to change. If you want the same as what you had, keep doing what you were doing before, and you're going to keep getting what you had before. The reason we get onto these calls is to learn about each other and from each other and about each other and be able to grow and work on our recovery. And that's how I thank you for the opportunity to be of service so I can work on my recovery.
Yeah, thank you, Haiti. And so Haiti is found, and Angeli is found, and a lot of you out there have found that it was never about the food.
Never about the
And
food.
so when you were 100 pounds down and you and I were talking and you were crying, and I was like, okay, because I'm a bitch. So, okay, so you look great. How you feeling today? And really, being 100 pounds lighter didn't make you 100 pounds happier, did it?
No, but it made the shopping a lot more fun.
Exactly. And we kid around about that, but really, your sadness, your despair, your fear didn't go away because you were losing weight.
No, I still lonely, I still ashamed, I still felt guilty, I still had all those same old feelings. I just looked different to you, but on the inside, I still felt exactly the same.
Yeah.
So I know we're starting to run out of time, but we do talk about meetings. We meet 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We meet Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've got a workshop coming up, the 3rd.
Can I interrupt you? You forgot to say
Sunday.
Oh, Sunday. Sorry, it's Sunday and Thursdays, okay?
Thursday night, Sunday morning.
If you're in Southeast Florida, come join us in the room. Otherwise, you hop onto our waiting room from anywhere in the world. We will see you, we can hear you, and it helps you interact with us.
And thank you for being of service to us.
Yes.
And I'm going to read from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I am going to read the promises. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, you guys, and we'll know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations that used to baffle us. we will suddenly realize that the universe does for us what we can't do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We don't think so. They're being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly and sometimes slowly, but they do always materialize if we work for them. I am blessed and grateful for every one of you. Thank you for being a part of my recovery. I'm blessed and grateful for.
Sorry. That was,
Why are you
I
sorry?
cut you